Voila, action. Welcome to PnP Weekly episode 197. It is 9th of February. Feels like yesterday we just recorded one of this. What's happened, Waldek?
Which almost was, right? Which almost was. So in this episode, we speak French.
No.
In PnP Weekly. Voila.
Fair point. In PnP Weekly, I always talk about the latest on Microsoft 365 areas, all up, and including the Microsoft Cloud. So we're being pretty inclusive, related on all of the things what's happening within the world, in Microsoft world. Yes, typically Microsoft world, including the Microsoft articles and then the community articles. Today is 9th of February, and we're recording this few days after the previous session because there's going to be holiday breaks and family things and all of that, which is important as well. So really, really good. For the upcoming weeks, I think we'll do a bit more switched scheduled. Woke. So anyway, let's not mind that. There was a lot of news this week. I think the hottest topic for sure has been artificial intelligence and the ChatGPT and the Google competitors and all of that stuff. It's been an interesting week. So before we go to the interview with Bert, I have to say it was interesting to actually know. I knew from last week already that something's going to happen on Monday, Tuesday, because there was social media, guidance and everything else going on internally in Microsoft. And since I do some of the tweeting and all of that, and there was a guidance, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what could it be? What could it be? Or is it then the ChatGPT Bing thing? And it was ChatGPT Bing thing. So, which leaked also on Friday, which is a bit of a bummer, but so still a cool thing. It happens, and clearly people have been loving that because the reaction has been really positive, especially on the Microsoft one. And in the interview with Bert Jansen this time, Bert is joining us on talking about the community and all of that stuff, and also we talk about the AI impact for developers, which is an interesting thinking point. Will it change everything? Will it make developers completely irrelevant? Spoiler: no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But as part of that discussion, we also talked about the Google handling of the situation, which wasn't that optimal. So they had a bit of a challenge on some of the demos in their event.
Some demos break,
Some demos break. Some demos, yeah, exactly.
And
the scale
and like a plan.
Yes, and you need to double check the information what you're getting is correct. You just you can't. What was the impact?
Assume.
What was the impact again on the stock? It was 100 billion.
Big. Yeah, it was big.
So anyway, let's jump on the interview and discussion with Bert Jansen. Bert's been in the show in the past as well, but he's always good to chat with. And let's talk about the impact of ChatGPT and the AI for developers as well. So welcome, Bert, on joining on the PnP Weekly, episode 919. English is so hard. 197. You've been actually on the show pretty recently as well, but we wanted to actually recap some of the insane numbers, what I know that you have calculated, for example, on the open source side of the house, and kind of talk about even more about the open source and what does it mean for you and community, and of course talk about the latest news of this week, which is. What is it? Well, artificial intelligence, right? So,
what did you say?
Yes,
AI. Okay, AI. I get it. Okay, I've heard something about that.
I hear you. You're in a tunnel.
Yes. Now, but can you do a quick recap, Bert, for those who do not know who you are and what you do for a living? And by the way, there was an organizational change as well. We can talk about that a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Last time, just not that long ago, in the school, I was a senior service engineer working in the OneDrive SharePoint customer engineering team. By then, two things have happened. One is more like a internal title alignment. So I'm now a senior software engineer, which I think better fits what I do for the most part, but it's not my only thing that I do. But the bigger thing is that I'm now in the developer, ODSP developer platform team. How do you call it?
I don't think it's ODSP
developer, whatever. Well,
I don't think it's ODSP anymore.
The team
but that's a separate discussion.
Owning the API service, the developer experience. So
yes,
I'm
platform APIs, SharePoint framework, extensibility. Technically, we do own SharePoint add-ins as well and farm solutions. So now I have somebody to go back and have a discussion
Workflow.
on feature framework.
Talk about
feature
XML.
framework.
Sample solution. No.
We wrote this XML, yeah.
So the same team as Vesa. So we just like you can say like a long journey from joining Microsoft.
It's been a while. Yes.
to now. Like when I joined Microsoft, I guess 6 weeks later, I went to a training around SharePoint in Munich, and there was Vesa there giving the training, which was an IT Pro training, but it ended up as a developer training. That's another story to tell.
Go figure.
I didn't know back then, but now I understand why. But yeah, so our SharePoint path crossed 16 years ago, more or less, and now we're finally, for the first time ever, in the same organization. So that's really cool, and really looking forward to the improved synergies that will give us, especially around PnP, for example, having the same management chain with not just me, also Patrick Rogers is now in the same organization. So I think that will be good for community and also good for our ISPs and customers altogether.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been an interesting. What we've been, for those who know me and Bert, we've been working closely within open source since 2013, right?
Yeah.
So, or community and open source tooling and reusable stuff. So, but again, this is the first time we are actually in the same team, which is interesting. So, but that really shows also the possibilities of cross-organizational and cross-team work. You don't have to be in the same team, right, Waldek?
Yes, and to be honest, we are not even in the same org. Like we meet
Exactly.
at CEO.
Exactly.
Right. So even though we work together almost every day, like we meet at CEO, basically that is kind of the connection that we have. So, but you mentioned that you both were working in the community since 2013. Now is 2023. When are we going to celebrate 10 years?
That's a good one.
That's a good question.
End of the calendar year, I guess, more or less. October, November time frame.
there's kind of a two, let's say, historical moments. There's the historical moment when we started the original first internal project, which wasn't public. So that's actually, I would say, August, September 2013. And that's when Bert actually got involved. And then we started doing things with Shuman Chakrabarti, Steve Walker. Well, there was a lot of other people involved in that.
Was Frank involved?
Frank Marasco. Yeah, true. So a lot of people started doing gradually involved internally. And then the moment when we went public wasn't it a SharePoint 2014 conference? I think April 2014. So that could be like the public moment whenever the open source community and thing actually publicly started. So
we can celebrate twice.
On Codeplex, right?
Yes.
On Codeplex.
Let's agree this. I'll pick up you both and everybody else from the team in my private jet, and we'll fly to Planai with that work. So.
Yes.
If you do it twice, that's acceptable.
Yes.
Only if you do it twice.
Yes. Only in my dreams, because private jets. Well,
I mean, you still have a few months to go.
Yeah, true.
Chop.
Yeah. Get onto it. Come on. Yeah. But yeah, so it's been an interesting ride, and it's actually interesting. It's been a really long journey, even to get corporate people necessarily to understand the value of community. Of course, there's always been the community of the SharePoint Saturdays for those who've been around since 2007, but doing open source with Microsoft corporate tooling, it wasn't really like, what are you doing exactly? Why are you sharing your IP and your expertise openly externally? And that was like, no, why you shouldn't be doing that? And that was a really interesting game. Also, I remember when this is actually a lot of the original stuff started from a one project which I did for that was a one big paper manufacturing company, one of the biggest paper manufacturing companies in the world. We did some mock-ups and tryouts and all of that. And when I started sharing those even internally in Microsoft in the autumn 2013, my management chain at the time was super worried about, why are you sharing this openly out? We should get, we'd have to claim some success out of it. So why are we sharing this out? And that's interesting how that mentality has evolved, especially with Microsoft. We didn't own GitHub at the time, but we didn't have GitHub connections at the time. There was just
did GitHub exist even back then?
GitHub did exist.
Probably, yeah. So, it was Codeplex.
But it was Codeplex at the time. So the whole mentality of, hey, sharing knowledge actually helps our partners and customers to succeed as well. It's a bit of a big thing, you know.
I think PnP is a nice testament to how that helps and how largely it's being adopted. And like if you
that's actually good to say. Now we've been wondering and chatting on that one. Yeah, the historical and the dinosaurs and blah blah. We heard the story 27 times. You mentioned how widely it has been adopted. Can you talk about some of the metrics? So one of the things what we started back in 2013 autumn, which is pretty horrifying, was the reusable code packages and all of that. And some of that's kind of historical reusable NuGet packages, and they've evolved to be whatever it is right now. What's the scale of usage? Yes,
there's still NuGet packages, but that's
NuGet packages.
The thing where we started with PnP was indeed let's call the utility library. To provide extra features on top of CSOM, because while working with CSOM, we discovered several kind of gaps, shortcomings, things which were really hard to do. And then, let's make, like any consulting organization, you would make things easier for your colleagues. We try to do that. That was that library, first.NET library, on NuGet eventually, yes. But that one still there. Although not in exactly the same form, obviously. 10 years, we did something in 10 years. Now we have PnP Core SDK and PnP Framework, which are the two libraries which work together hand in hand. Core SDK is the newer one, containing all new features end up in that one. It's way better documented, better tested, etc. But still plenty of features in the PnP Framework one. Some of these code pieces are quite old. I'm pretty sure there's still things out there in there from like the early days, not that many, but there's still
stuff what I've written.
Even stuff that you've written, we
wow.
We try to eliminate that, but we still have some things to do. But we're getting there. But the thing is that like the usage for those things is just crazy. Like for the whole, now I'm just looking up the right numbers here. So give me a sec. But for the whole PnP ecosystem, we had like 1.3 million tenants that used a PnP component, and that's not just .NET world. That's also a CLI. That's also a PowerShell. That's also PnP.js. So it's the main libraries and tools that we have. Like they've been used by 1.3 million tenants. I think if we kind of dreamt about that
last year, so
like 10 years ago, or 7 years ago, or 5 years ago, it would be an impossible target. It would be way too just out of league. Meaning, it happened. We did that, and that's amazing.
But I mean, like, and maybe that's kind of a stretch, but basically the same way Bill Gates envisioned in 90s that everybody would have a PC at home, or was it earlier already?
I think it was even earlier, like 80s.
Like basically the same thing. Like everybody who built something on 365 uses PnP in one way or another.
Correct. Yeah. That's
like
true.
That being a North Star, right?
Yeah. But it's actually interesting, and I think one of the key success points there is the consistency and communications, and just keep on doing, because if you're doing the good thing and if you're doing the good will for other people, which by the way motivates you because you're helping people, at least for me, that's always been like all about helping other people, and that makes me feel better because I'm providing value for other people. But that's consistency is super critical. And then, of course, all of this tooling, like coming back on CLI is a great example. Waldek, you created CLI originally. Obviously, now it's much more multiple people maintaining that and all of that. But you created originally CLI to address a gap. Gap was there. There was a need. There was a requirement. Microsoft didn't. Exactly. So, and then it started growing from there to what it is, the massive success, what it is right now. It's just interesting. There's always kind of the successful projects in open source or in the community, of course, they are not just, hey, I'll do something. No, they actually are there to provide real value for others as well.
Yeah.
So.
And it takes time. I think people underestimate or kind of assume that something open source will immediately be a success and everyone will need it and work on and jump on it and do things. But that's not reality. I think just need, like you mentioned, Vesa, being persistent, keep going, and step by step, projects grow and get more mature and get more people helping out and get an ecosystem around them. And that just takes years of time. There is no 0 to 100 in a couple of months. Unless maybe it's AI related nowadays. That might be a super hot topic.
Yeah, all of the open source. There's no value in open source. It's all coming from AI.
That might change some things. We'll see.
And one thing to also notice in the scale of this, if you think about the scale of 10 years, which is not yet 10 years, but still, it's you have ups and you have downs. You have ups and downs, and it's actually interesting to see how the industry moves forward and the offerings move forward and the products move forward, and then how the open source demand goes up and down, and what are the things what people are using, moving from only 100% in C# to a more web stack development world across all of the different cross-platform and all of that. It's been an interesting journey to see all of that transformation. So, and from a Microsoft perspective, especially you've been in a company for a long time, Bert, as well, the transformation of the company, which was heavily against Apple, heavily against any other ecosystem than the Windows and Microsoft ecosystem, and we were super aggressive about that. And all of a sudden, then
a new CEO.
Yeah, that was part of the. Satya started in 2014. I just saw it yesterday, so it's a good reminder. But it's just completely flipping the discussion and basically embracing the other devices and making sure that. Services are there.
Also, especially I think in our space, adoption plays a big role, right? Because even though we come up with something, it doesn't mean that people will embrace it. It's not like, especially in our space, people build things that are there to last. So it's not like an app you install on your phone to, I don't know, view maps or something. And if you don't like it, you uninstall, you install another one. Like if you buy into something like service library and SDK or a tool that is there, like it's bought, like you buy into it.
Yep.
And removing it comes with a huge cost, right? Because to benefit from it, well, you need to learn. You make a choice. I'm going to use this, so I'm not going to do these other three things, right? So you invest that, and like people are wary about it, because many folks are risk averse, especially in projects that they do for customers, the large orgs. They don't want to have unnecessary risk that they will use something and the thing will disappear from the face of the earth tomorrow.
Of course not.
Right.
Yep.
So getting to the place where we kind of prove, we earn our stripes, and we show no, we are here. We are here to stay. You can trust us.
Yeah.
And having that trust, it takes years to build that overnight
overnight success.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, it's PnP PowerShell absolutely that's even actually more well known or even more used. Well, not technically more used, because PnP PowerShell uses PnP Core behind the scenes, but people don't necessarily know that. So PnP PowerShell is like
PnP
the kind of the cues between the components are interesting as well. But if they've got something like PnP PowerShell, some of the new commandlets don't go to official PowerShell commandlets anymore. They go to PnP PowerShell because it's more widely used. And where that started, well, Erwin van Hoonen back in 2014 was kind of looked into the NuGet component, where the reusable library was like, kind of makes sense to be able to do the stuff using scripting, which, by the way, makes a lot of sense. And scripting is a great way of doing low-level automation and easy automate. Well, easy. The complex PowerShell scripts are not super easy, but anyway, so. It's super easy to do PowerShell. It's like whatever. Anyway,
ChatGPT, can you give me a PowerShell script?
Yes, exactly.
It can.
Now the question is, will now ChatGPT make all open source and the code and developers completely irrelevant? You, Bert, actually tested that recently this week, and that with great results.
I had like a surprising result, for some internal Q&A, we need to kind of list all methods from particular libraries. Ask ChatGPT, tell it to use C#, use reflection to create a console application that reads these properties and then outputs the CSV with these columns. Takes like 2 minutes to describe the task. Okay, press enter. Okay, well, something comes out, but not all code spit out by ChatGPT, by any AI always compiles or works, whatever. Sometimes there are small things that you have to fix, but this was just copy paste, create a new console application in Visual Studio, paste, press F5, bomb. There it was. it just worked, and so
exactly.
That saved me like an hour, because you all know these things work, but then you have to start hunting the correct example and copy paste and start from something, and it's not it's not super hard.
Yeah.
But it's just annoying to kind of, okay, I did this in the past, but now I have to figure out again how I did it. So you start searching, and all of that work, you kind of had get a head start with ChatGPT and AI, and that was a nice surprise. And this is just a very simple sample
Is it horrifying, or is it?
No. I see it more as a
huge opportunity.
Yeah. And
increases productivity of the developers for sure.
Developers, but also students. Like kind of anecdote. I told my daughter I showed my kids ChatGPT, and then there was some discussion around it, and they're both one daughter's 20 and son is 18, so they're at school and studying, and then today my daughter, she sent me a message like, hey, a friend of me, she told me that she used it for an exam. She had an online exam, and she asked ChatGPT the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And she passed. She was kind of completely shocked about it. It was like, oh, what? I'm not giving that example.
Really, but it only proves, right? The time of the exams, that even the shape of exams need to change. Like the things we test people on, like it's about time, because it's way past. Know, the need for a change, and
it's no longer about memorizing.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have abundance of stuff. You can find things really, really easily. So like being able to connect dots or to think critically, or even when you look at piece of text, is it correct?
Yes.
Because now we will have abundance of info, and we have AI create you articles
I think,
and research papers and anything. Like, is this right?
Yeah. That will be the hard part with it. Like you get like such a well-written article that somehow you assume is correct, but it's not necessarily 100% correct. And depending on situation, if you're just writing and doing things, maybe it's all fine. But if you're need something exact, then there is some things to take into account. Now, I do know there's AI models. You can also you give different parameters to them and make them return more kind of free form versus more accurate. So there is ways to optimize that, and I think if you see AI appearing in products, there will be more tendency to go to the exact responses. Depending on the use case, I guess people will tweak it. So there's a long way to go to embed this type of technology in meaningful products, but it's super promising. If you start looking around, this is really promising and interesting. There's like even a new kind of job description coming is prompt engineering. I'm a prompt engineer.
Exactly. Yeah.
I understand how to talk to an AI. That's kind of what it is. Yeah. I ask this question, I get output, but output is not what I want. How can I rephrase the question so I get the output that is what I need? Yeah. Or how can I build like a concept where I ask parallel questions, pick the right one, start the other question. So there is there's already like a science behind it around prompt engineering. And tools to help with prompting and etc. So it's a skill.
We'll ask AI to write us tools that help us build better prompts for AI.
Yep, that's one way of doing that. So there was a nice meme. I can't remember. It was David Rousseau from the dev team who basically had the Simpson metaverse. We have metaverse. The skills, I have metaverse skills, and then walking beyond the bushes, and poof, I'm an AI skilled person. Yeah. So
it only shows, the ebbs and flows of market and
exactly. It's always a cycle, and it's always basically one side to another, and we adapt on the things. Now the AI does with all due honesty with this week, and now it's showing more attention with Bing AI announcement, the Google failure actually on their event as well, impacting 100 billion on their stock value. That's a really good example of the massive disruption and disruption what is right now happening. And every single company is now thinking, how can I take advantage of this? What could it actually do for me? So, or they should.
What ideas do you have, Bert, for AI being a part of PnP?
That's a good one. I've been thinking a bit about it, but like the obvious thing is you could train it on your documentation, on your samples, but the thing is that you have to first have enough documentation, enough samples to get meaningful content. But if you look at OpenAI, there is today options to use. Anyone in the world can take their own data set and train it and kind of build a bot that uses the OpenAI tech on your data to get responses.
Yep.
So we could kind of make it easier for folks, because now we have all those kind of samples, a lot of samples, that's what we have. But if there would be like a place to kind of say, like, I need this, and go, all these samples, there's 10,000 samples that are, I just put a number there, but that's the most accurate one. But the 10,000 samples and documentation pages, I need this, give me the answer.
Give me a script.
Give me a script to do this.
Or even if you go 2 steps forward. So of course the chat UI and everything else, and that's coming now in Bing, and that's the whole thing. But we will certainly get to the moment where you can basically say, hey, can you give me a SharePoint framework solution which does these things, has a web part and an ACE, and then the ACE is connecting, and that's getting deep linking on the Teams, which is actually being hosted by the web part. And it gives you the whole project structure even.
Question is, how do you need to do something special for PnP to integrate that, or do you just wait for like the developer tools to get this type of prompt functionality inside them, so you can just, when you're developing code, ask? Actually, you can already do it today. If you would GitHub Copilot, if you use that.
Yep, exactly.
If you type comments, / describe what you're going to do as a comment, quite often the first code lane, it read the comment and it kind of comes up with like a block, like, you wrote this as a comment. I'm pretty sure you want to do something like this.
Yeah.
And that's the same tech behind the scenes, but that's also surprisingly accurate. And sometimes even scary accurate. Like, wait, are you reading my mind? No, you can't. But sometimes it feels like that.
But that does not certainly mean then that we would actually, it would danger the job description of a developer, because again, if we have a look on the, let's say, the demand for developers historically, of course now we're in a bit of a recession, there has been layoffs and everything else, which is horrible. But looking on the growth curve on the demand for developers, why all of the countries are betting on development technologies and training more developers, the demand is massive. The question is just where the demand always is. Is it in with areas of the IT business, and that might cause some layoffs here and there, which is horrible, and that's always not good. But looking on the demand and the number of developers we can get out of the universities and schools, they don't match. So the AI will then help the developers to be more productive and make things happen faster. So increases the productivity. Will it ever take over the human mind? That's the interesting question.
It's a philosophical question. But,
yes.
I wonder if the another aspect will be because you mentioned that the demand being dependent on the area of interest or skills, and I wonder, I'd like to see AI take a role in that, in helping people be reskilled. Like, I know, for example, JavaScript, TypeScript, C#. I don't know Rust, but I want to be able to code in Rust. How about AI taking the code that I wrote in the language that I know, making it to Rust, and then explaining it to me, like how different things can happen? Because I already know the things like loops and exception, like the programming concepts, I just don't know the flexion, like language, and maybe some specific things that are specific to Rust or Go or some other thing, right? So how much easier would it be for me to learn that way as opposed to buying a book or doing online course or watching a video?
I think that would be a productive way of learning, because it's always easier to kind of, if you understand what you want by your current knowledge and then get the new thing. And why wouldn't that be possible? Because like translating today is one of the key things that ChatGPT or any natural language model, large language model, can do. They are really good at doing that. But they need to be fed with this is in and this comes out, and they need to be trained. So if there's not enough training on JavaScript, TypeScript to Rust, then the results will be poor. But over time, I think if the corpus of training content flowing into these tools, of this into AI, imagine it would crawl everything in the internet, including it doesn't. Including all research databases.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for me an interesting thing. Like if the research can be combined, that's what Facebook tried, and then they can pull it off because it was like not accurate. It kind of made up things, but if that thing can get accurate and using AI, you can find connections between two different parts and see them, because you're an expert.
Correlations between the
No one is expert in all areas, but in AI, I think expert in all.
That's one of the areas in the medical studies and research is not actually anymore to do the actual research. It's more on overlapping existing research data with other research data, and then coming up with, oh my God, wow. So they don't necessarily, I know that this is already happening in the medical industry. So they don't necessarily need to do more research. They have the data already. The question is just finding those correlations between the different events, and then be like, we need to do further investigation in this section. So
there's so many inventions still waiting to be found.
Exactly.
They're there, but someone just has to look in the right direction and say like, wait, this together, it means
by the way, great way of saying that, Bert. So really
there was the other day, there was something, when we talk about experts, one of the folks who are leading experts in their field asked the ChatGPT about something in their area of work, and the chatbot obviously gave an answer, and the answer supposedly aligned with their line of thought, and it was like, well, like he's right, he agrees with me. Where somebody else was like, what if it was trained on you?
Yeah, exactly.
So it was trained not to think critically, but basically it was fed what you said, and it's giving you exactly your thoughts back. Right.
Which is interesting as well. But now, by the way, on the translation, I have to say, we did got the ChatGPT in the wrong translation in Finnish language, which was interesting. So because again, you might think that even the language translations would be easily doable, but it's not necessarily always the case. And that's a great reminder on the
every other language on earth. Yes, but
Finnish is the exception on the rule. That's like
yes.
But it was interesting.
There, nothing works.
It was in the larger context, but the English word was kite, but Finnish word was eagle. So sure, they're both in the sky and they do things, but kite is a kite and eagle is an eagle. So there's pretty one is an animal and one isn't. So
someone has it wrong.
Well, but I think it could indicate like the same, if I understood it right, like the way, for example, it deals with programming languages, like. It doesn't read word for word. It tries to understand the meaning of it and then copy the meaning to that. So it's not like, like when you have a lexer and parser in programming, you have something that scans thing and understands tokens and words and build out of that abstract syntax tree and all of that. And then from that, you could go to another language. AI doesn't do any of that. It looks at the code, it tries to understand the meaning, and then based on the meaning, okay, so you're trying to do X, here's the code. And the code you will get in another language will not be word for word, like you had a loop here, you will have a loop here. It will try to give you the same goal.
Which raises the question, like, what if people probably already do that, but if an AI generates code, if you have additional software then there's the software check, the compilation steps and can tell like, yeah, not good. And automate the training.
Yeah. Retry
linters,
until
the linters.
It's a bit like some AIs work. They retrain themselves. They just start playing a game, and they make mistakes against the rules. Okay, then they get the feedback like this was wrong.
2 + 2? 8. Yeah. No, 2 + 2 is 4. Okay. What is 2 + 5? 4. No, it's 7. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but that's how it works, and so they can train themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
With ChatGPT, if you tell it, you have to imagine that you're like a physicist or an engineer or whatever type technical role, and you're really good at mathematics. You ask the question, like do some calculation with brackets, or you have to pick the right operator first. That's right, the basic calculation stuff. It will give you the right answer. It can explain you, okay, I did like this, and this.
Yeah.
That's why. If you just say, here is the calculation, give me the answer, it might go wrong, because then it assumes different, and it doesn't. The input is not precise enough to get to the accurate answer, and that's kind of the prompt engineering in the beginning. Yeah. Like you have to know how to tell it what you need.
Express yourself.
I talk about it. You talk about he, and you have to probably think about the name. It, he, she. What is it?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
And I think you see this even more with the AI for images. You have an image in your mind, kind of which direction you want to go, and then you write a prompt, and the AI doesn't have the context you have, so it comes up with, it only looks at your prompt as the context that it has, right? And then you will get image that is different than what you had in mind, and you'll get kind of the point like, how do I express my thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard, especially for those things. But you can be verbose.
And that's something what we can teach people to actually do as well, provide more context, express your thoughts, and
it's name talking, using words.
Oh, that's what it is. Wow. Anyway, so this will be an interesting discussion to come back within 10 years or so. Be like, okay, so what did they...
we're at the hype cycle. I think we're at the top of the hype today. So things will naturally go a bit down, but
yeah. There's always remember I think my favorite classic example is to remember the 3D televisions. That was the future. 3D. Where is it? I don't have a 3D television. So, but it's interesting.
In Finland. Oh.
We live in 2D, so Finland is only 2D world. There's not. This is just this is a shadow. So you should come over. So you should.
The world is flat.
Yes.
Okay, we should ask ChatGPT if the world is flat in Finland. But, I'm not sure what will come out.
Anyway, I think it's time to wrap up on the discussions. And thank you, Bert, for joining. And it's a good discussion from open source communities to ChatGPT and the future of the developers.
The world being flat.
Yes, exactly.
All in one episode.
Yes. Let's do a quick round of what's going to happen this week, and then close up for the day. Anything interesting, Bert, on your side? That's probably my side as well nowadays that we're in the same team. So what are we doing this week?
What's on your plate, guys?
Exactly. What have we expected to do?
Well, I came from 3 days of holidays. That's my first day of work this week. So it's a short week. So mainly catching up on email.
Or next week. What's happening in next week? We are recording this on Thursday as a special early recording. So it's a bit of early. Anything interesting what you're working on?
Actually, I'm working on I think in the past we talked about the Microsoft 365 assessment tool, which is a tool an open source tool that you can use to kind of get insight in your workflow usage, get insight on how Microsoft Syntax can add value to your organization. I'm building a new module for that one that will give you all the classic usage. And so it's classic pages, a typical example, but also SharePoint add-in usage, Azure SAS, user custom actions, for example, that are embedding JavaScript on a page, classic lists, all these things are kind of coming together. Like you get like a really nice Power BI report, giving you all that kind of insight in what's old and classic and why do you need that?
Yeah.
Well, you're missing out on our model investment in SharePoint. SharePoint evolves, and we are we keep rolling and adding new features, but if you just stay where you are, then you miss out on those things, and that's a pity. And sometimes with quick changes, you can translate that classic content into modern and benefit from new things.
From the weekly release.
And not everything has to be modern either. So it's not like a black or white thing. It's like a really big gray space between the black and the white here, and you have to decide where it makes sense for your organization, where not. All the old team sites which have not been touched for like 5 years. Yeah, why would you care about those? So meaning, let them be. But relevant content, sure. Make sure that that's modern and that you can benefit.
Make sure tenant future proven. So.
Like if we start shipping AI-infused features inside our products, if you're on classic SharePoint and you see the ribbon, I don't think that there will be a button in the ribbon like do something with AI.
And you're still paying the same amount of money on the tenant fees. So
correct. So but there were no tools. There's nothing to give. There was kind of bits and pieces here and there to give you a view on what you have. But now this will centralize all these things into like a new tool.
And there's some new APIs coming up on that one as well. We'll cover all of that. So which enables Bert to do which enables Bert to do his job in here, but there will be APIs available for other people as well. Anyway, thank you, Bert, on that one. Waldek, CLI, you'll be on vacation. Family vacation?
Yes,
family
exactly.
break?
So this week is not going to happen that much. Like I basically have a half day left. So it's doing some internal things, but this week is not going to happen that much. Next week, back to normal, back to the regular work where we're working on the Microsoft Graph Developer Proxy, CLI for Microsoft 365. And I think if all stars align, we will announce something on February 15th. So stay tuned for announcement for a cool thing that we planned for March. So stay tuned for more updates about that.
Cool. On my side, we're starting the prep 1.17 SharePoint framework release, not yet next week, but we're starting the prep on that one. I'm making testing internally, so that's good as well. It's intended to go and release GA actually by end of this quarter, so we need to start getting stuff out.
Any kimono lifting, like what's in, what's out?
I don't understand that reference, but no. This is a family show. Come on, Waldek.
It's a normal expression you can find in a dictionary.
No. But
okay.
No, there will be new features. I think we're looking into Webpack upgrades, potentially new technical upgrades. There's going to be top bar buttons for web parts. There's going to be ACE improvements, Viva improvements. So across the board, new stuff. And I think we're getting closer and closer to ship also the preview of the Viva cards powered by Bot framework, which is not really a SharePoint framework, but it's related on the Viva thing. So all of that is, well, not keeping us up. And we, well, at least personally, I sleep really well regardless of the situation ever. So, but, there's a lot to be done on making these things happen. Also, we're looking into having finally the Viva product type in the app stores, which is rolling out pretty soon as well. So a lot of cool stuff there. So, but I think that's it. Thank you, Bert. Thank you, Waldek. Good to have good discussion. It's been an interesting week with all of the announcements. AI is going to take over the world. So. Yeah, that's true. It's just this week it's been really on the news, and behind the scenes that have been used for many things already. So, but thanks for joining. We'll jump the weekly articles with Waldek right from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert.
Excellent. Thank you, Bert, joining us on the show. And let's jump on the articles. I guess that's what's missing. So let me share my screen. Let me see if I can find the right screen.
What has ChatGPT got for us this week?
Yes, so we'll start with the ChatGPT integration.
Sharing his own articles. No.
Exactly. No, of course, the big news this week has been for sure the rise of an AI and what does it mean, and the big announcement and the search engine competition related on AI included in them. So the big announcement on Tuesday was that the Bing will get modified or modernized quite significantly. So it's not necessarily that you use the search engine anymore to search articles and then you go to the articles and try to find what's relevant for you. You can actually ask from the engine, hey, give me the answer. So you don't have to search the answer from the multiple articles. And that changes the dynamics completely. It's really, really cool. And of course, it's not just that. So from the announcement, there was a lot of integrations related on the browsers and all of that. So it's not just the Bing, but the ChatGPT and integrations, and that artificial intelligence is coming in many other areas as well. So it's been for sure the #1 topic of today. Not today. Well, probably today as well. But so #1 topic of the week. Good. I'll talk about this one as well because I was involved on writing the article. So we are also rolling out from the Viva blog. We're rolling out a new Viva connection experience, and this really focuses on the Viva Home. We talked about the Viva Home a few times in the show, and there has been articles and blog posts available. But it's basically a free starting point and free, easily configurable and available in all tenants as a company starting point for both mobile and desktop. And it really makes it aligned, that experience, based on those dashboard cards and resources and feed, which is exactly the same experience which is available then in mobile. Now that I'm saying this out loud, it's a bit of a bummer that we don't actually have a good picture on that mobile experience in the blog post, but we do show it in our videos related on the new Viva Home experience. So especially Anshuman's video related on customized and edit Viva Connection home experience, that actually demonstrates also, if I remember correctly, the mobile experience, and that's part of this as well. So it's not just the desktop, it's the mobile experience and rolling out new experiences as well. Cool stuff, all extensible with SPFX, so you can actually build integrations to your LOBs and all of that stuff within this UX. So a lot of interesting opportunities for partners and customers on that side as well. Now, Kathy Du, who owns our SharePoint templates and experiences and UX, had a new article in a SharePoint blog.
Exactly, about building beautiful sites with purpose. And building beautiful sites is as old as SharePoint probably was from day one. At the moment we got the ability to theme and change the UX like that already. Yep. Then it evolved this kind of idea, like
with SharePoint Designer. Ooh. With SharePoint Designer.
SharePoint Designer, yes. Yes.
Don't use it, please. Don't use it. Don't use it.
But I mean, like, it only proves the need, right? That UX is important, and yes. For some companies, like expressing their brand through their intranet and sites that they build is a key thing, right?
Because that for a lot of companies, yeah, absolutely.
Kind of binds the employees with them, and it's a very key thing for their identity, and as such, they have the need to customize and theme sites. So it's great to see what is available. And I think that this is basically a recap of what you can do today in SharePoint sites, what you can tweak, what are the options for you to control the UI, the UX, and all of that. So this is a great recap article that shows you what is already there. And there's another article coming on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Valentine's Day. Yes, indeed. Next week. You're out then, so you need to read it afterwards.
On 14th, I'll be back.
You'll be back on 14th. Okay, got it.
Yes, I am back already on Monday. So I'm coming back on Monday.
Got it. I was just worried you're not here. Half of my brain is then on a vacation, and I don't know what to do next week if you're not present. So I'm not complete. Yeah. Is it the left one or right one? I don't know. Anyway, so
what should I do?
Yes. Templates. Intro to our podcast with Mark Cashman had a visitors, Kathy Du, Peter Larsen, and Lars Christensen, talking about the templates and the impact of the templates. So Microsoft 365 template, SharePoint template, list templates, and what does that actually mean? So that is a great show in the Intro Zone podcast with references what they are going through as well. So a lot of cool stuff in there. Now, we also had an article from Dan and Aisha.
From zero to hero, build a meetings app with Azure Communication Services, short ACS, and Microsoft Teams. Part 2. So in previous article, you learned about how to get started with ACS, to bring some of the audio, video meeting abilities to your app. In this article, you kind of take the next step, and they talk about like how you can combine it into Teams app. How do you bring together the power of graph to also infuse the app with data and insights and the ability to interact with Teams in your app. So this is a really cool article that shows the power of bringing together multiple ingredients, Azure, ACS, Teams, and Graph, into building a powerful end-to-end app. Really cool thing. If you're in this space, if you need something to streamline video calls, maybe
let's say, and there's a lot of, I think that this is a really interesting let's say technology, because again, let's say virtual meetups with your doctor, you don't want to necessarily click a Teams meeting link. You go to a website, you sign in as yourself, you identify yourself in that website, you then say connect, and that connects to the team. So from a doctor,
everywhere. It's,
exactly, that's
in retail, it's in banking,
exactly,
it's in finance, it's mortgages, it's all kind of advisory, where there's a video meeting across companies, and especially B2C. This is a perfect.
And you don't necessarily, as said, you don't want to send the Teams link to somebody, because again, you could go. What is
they
it?
Aren't on
Zoom,
Teams. They aren't on your Teams.
Zoom bombing. What is it? Is it Zoom bombing? Yes, exactly. And you would have to have the Zoom. I don't know, but you would have to have Teams installed and all of that. With this, you don't. That's the beauty of it. So again, really, really interesting technology, and we should probably focus a bit on those scenarios. They're great, let's say, scenario talking what can be done in here. So not just the technology, it's also about the scenarios to really get your mind bubbling on, oh my God, this is brilliant. Now, something which we need to also call out related on Microsoft 365, there was announced relatively recently, we actually missed it last week, that Microsoft 365 certifications are evolving. There are some name changes, there are some renaming of things, and unfortunately, there are some retirements as well. Now, there was an explicit ask to talk about the retirement of some of this certs, but to be honest, neither one of us actually has all of the details, and there are certain areas which we don't want to even speculate. So I would actually love to have a Microsoft 365 developer certificate in place, but it seems to be that the one which was the closest, which is Microsoft 365 Certified Teams Application Developer Associate, that's the MS600, is now retiring. As said, either one of us don't have exact details why and how, and will there be a replacement? Hopefully there will be, and we're more than happy to help whoever is creating that replacement, hopefully future. But knowing the demand on and how much extensibility is being used, we absolutely need to have a certificate here. It's highly beneficial. So a lot of changes in the certification world. When I was young, back in 1935, we had the MCM trainings and Microsoft certification, master certification trainings. And
you just went from one to the other, one to the other. You didn't do any work. You just got certified.
True. That's true.
So that when you got anything to do, you could prove that you were skilled and knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, but that was, so I think the certification, the value of certification has been, let's say, moving around, and I think we need to be a bit more clear as a Microsoft on the value and the direction of these certs as well. So what's the benefit of them, and why people should be using them? I think when I started in Microsoft world, the certificates there was a clear path of getting a certain high-end advanced, let's say, acknowledgements, which had a tremendous value. As you had discussion with customers, they actually were super valuable. Oh, you're on that level. Oh, whatever. So, and sir, the title of Microsoft Certified Master, that sounds really
that is
cool.
Not going away. You're master forever, right?
Yes. You can't take that away from me.
Watch me.
Yes. Yeah, that program was already disconnected back in 2013. So, Now, Robbie Williams had a good summary articles in the Microsoft 365 Platform Community blog related on how to create apps for Microsoft Teams. And this kind of reference in the Microsoft Teams learning path, and also the Teams toolkit. So how to get started on that one, and making sure that people find all of the cool, relevant information there. Now, then Techion had 2 really cool Microsoft lists, extensibility or formatting options. Really, really awesome here. You want to talk about this, or should I? Either way.
Yeah, it's basically, again, and he keeps doing the awesome things, like really to push the limits of what you can do with lists and formatting, and basically go beyond what is available out of the box, and basically achieve more. He time and again he shows us that you don't always need to code app. You can go really you can achieve a lot. You can go really far based just on the normal list and formatting the data so it's shown in a different way. And we've seen so many examples that, like, to me, I would never have thought, like, hey, like they wouldn't even occur to me to think about it in the lines of I wanted to adjust that directly in the list. Like, I would build an app because that is more native thing to me. But it only shows like how much you can achieve. And I don't want to say without writing code, because some of this is more complex
than
my code with with the extra pinch of unable to debug it. But it's really cool to see how far you can come without having to, host anything, or data going somewhere, or data leaving your tenant and all that. So also this is really, really cool examples of how far you can go.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really cool stuff. Thank you, Techion, on this. It's just amazing. And by the way, in our open source, in our 2 of those, thank you. In our open source world, one of the most popular sample gallery is the list formatting GitHub and list formatting samples. There is so many cool looking samples available for people to get adjusted, and just have a look on what's available, and then just plug it in, and you can don't open up the same one, show another one. Okay, yes, I will.
But it's so good.
Yes, but there's a lot of, let's see, progress header. Yeah, so there's a lot of like really interesting things what you can do without the actual need of writing code, and that's really like you can do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where do you start?
Exactly. But all of these are provided as a open source JSON definitions, and the documentation is in place for you to take advantage. And really, that's how you learn. Start by doing. Now, Marcus Miller had a new article as well related on SharePoint documentation review and Outlook on Teams, and a custom application built in here. So basically, how do we build that kind of an experience? How do we have a search-based messaging extension in Outlook to make things happen? So you could actually have a search messaging extension, then the reference to document, so you can easily find the link to the document rather than going to the document and taking the share link and all of that. So streamline, productivity increase.
If you are in Teams, be able to find stuff directly in Teams, as opposed to having to leave Teams, go to another app, find the thing that you want to do, copy paste it. No, like do more with less.
Yes,
I guess.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's good. That's good. We just need to have.
I'm here to hold you.
Exactly. And on the 365 Message Center, Daniel and Daryl go through all of the updated Message Center updates. And Message Center updates are basically those messages which Microsoft sends to tenant administrators on the changes which are coming. So these are actually really, really great ways of understanding, what's rolling out, because we want to communicate those in the tenant level as well. And they go through on the latest episode on the different upcoming changes. There are changes on the projects and the video calls and all of that stuff. So a lot of stuff across the Microsoft 365 areas are covered here. It's a great show. Thank you, Daniel and Dara, on that one. Then we have conversation with Stephen Rose. Who's Stephen Rose?
Stephen Rose is a PMM in my Microsoft Teams, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So putting you on the spot. Yes.
Exactly. Like know your who is who in Microsoft, right?
Yes.
As you can imagine, being PMM on Teams, a product marketing manager in Teams, like you can already expect like which direction conversation will go. It's going to be about Teams, right?
Yes.
So you can probably imagine that they will talk about what's latest and greatest, where things are going, and so on and so on. And it's always so. I recall Stephen being, I think first I've heard of him when he was on OneDrive.
I think he was on OneDrive and Windows. Yeah. So
So always, great person to talk to hear from. So it's just another great episode of the show. So if you're interested in that space, check it out.
Absolutely. And then we have an article from João Ferreira. See, after like 5 years, João.
Yes.
João Ferreira. I'm getting it. So that's been pretty painful. For João Ferreira and João Mendes, so for both of them.
So if you ask them to say something in Finnish, I would expect just at least as much struggle. So, I don't want to even know how badly we come across in Finnish.
That's fair. And with all due honesty, I don't really care how my name is being pronounced, so it's okay as long as it gets my attention. So never feel bad about calling people's name. Yo, dude. João had an article related on how to create a video playlist for stream videos, and a really cool storyline related on Microsoft List as well. Microsoft List is a free tooling which is available within the Microsoft 365, which can be then easily used to surface information in a list format. And they are actually pretty powerful as well. So you can do a flexible presentation, and you can use actually those JSON definitions even in here, which is really, really cool. Then on the video side, Paolo has been moving on his journey with the episode 230. I think 35 was the first Office Scripts episode, if I remember correctly. And he's been kind of covering the Office Scripts and the possibilities there. And the latest one being on the consuming external APIs with Office Scripts and with Excel Online. Gets interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Excel Online, Office Scripts, external APIs.
Right? So you can now run a piece of JavaScript in Excel to automate interaction between your script and Excel sheet, right? That is really cool. Like for me, I made a switch a few years back where I use JavaScript everywhere when I can, front end, back end, terminal, and now I can also do it in Excel sheet. So I just learned one thing, and I can be a jack of all trades.
Yep.
A master of none.
Yep. Well, yeah. Tell me about it. That sounded like my job description. So really?
But I mean, imagine on a flip in the past, you would have VBA in Excel, you would have command line batch files in Windows or Bash in Linux. You would have C# backend, front end JavaScript.
Quadrillion amount of different languages. It is actually really cool. Standardize, simplify, and how the industry is heading to a more unified way of doing things. It's really good. So
and it's cool to see on this slide you show that there are 2 bullet points about the things you can and 4 about the things you can't do.
I think Paulo's point is not to be the salesperson. His point is always to teach, and he's really good on teaching.
Reality check.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you can be really excited. Oh my God, I'm going to build the whole thing in it. I'm going to build the whole intranet in Excel. No, don't.
Yeah, and it's actually good to know those limitations advance rather than just focus on how awesome things are. I'm a pretty rational person from that perspective. I appreciate the openness on limitations as well. Good. And then we had a new video from Shane Young related on batch complete SharePoint columns with Power Apps, choice person, lookup, manage metadata. So how do we actually handle that data in Power Apps? Because of course, Power Apps can be easily used to create those forms and experiences, which then has a SharePoint data source. Of course, you can use Dataverse as a data source, depending on whatever is your licensing situation, cost structure, knowledge. You need to choose the right platform for you. So really cool. Video as well. Thank you, Shane, on that.
Yeah, and it's also cool, right? Because it's been the same since SharePoint 2007, maybe even earlier, where the data in the UI, you get this rich experience of a person or metadata tag or whatever you have, but internally it's stored in a weird way,
it's super weird format.
Yes, indeed. Hash separated string, and you're like, what? Right, and you have to know that because the moment when you patch the value or update the value, you need to understand the value that is there and format that is there. You have to send across the wire to API.
Right? Absolutely. I still remember. I have whatever you were just explaining the massively complex value types. I think it was like person field, or maybe it was a hyperlink, or whenever I started my SharePoint journey, like a few years ago, I tried to, of course, you start with a CRUD operations, create, read, update, and delete, and then you start, okay, now I can access the field. How do I set the value for the field?
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't like set a value on something. That's not how it actually worked. And it's like,
and that was format that wasn't and isn't used anywhere else. It's just like
exactly.
I've never seen anywhere else a semicolon hash separated string. Like what?
Yes.
And then you get into MMS. And the hierarchy of your term is separated with pipes, and you're like
GUIDs and pipes, and that's interesting. True.
Well, but I guess on the flip, what else would you do? A YAML?
Yeah. JSON works always.
Sending all those spaces and tabs across the wire, like that would work pretty well.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway. We already went through what's going to happen this week or next week, and all of that with Bert. So Bert, thank you for joining us one more time. We didn't have a massive amount of articles this week because, again, we just recorded the previous episode, but we want to keep the weekly cycle, releasing a Tuesday every single time. We do have a few episodes until it's episode 200. Let's see what's going to happen then. I have no idea. So
if anything, right? Because maybe nothing is going to happen, and
that's true.
We assume like we show up and there is like no invite, nothing in the calendar. Yeah, there's nothing, and we're like,
okay.
So do we record 201 already? Do we skip this?
Yes. Skip it. That would be clever. So
no, we cannot do that. We cannot.
Episode 199, episode 201. What? But where?
This is the episode that wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. If you are in Twitter, please use hashtag PnP Weekly. Helps us to find the relevant articles and the awesome stuff what you're using. If you are somewhere else, please remember to share what you're writing and what you're doing in the social media. That helps on people to find the awesome stuff what you're either doing in a video format or in a writing format. But I guess that's it. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Waldek, one more time. We'll be back within a week. Cheers. Bye-bye.
See ya.